Welcome to the Footballguys Dynasty Show. It's me, the busiest geek online, Jagger, and with me, as always, is our Dynasty captain, Jeff Bell. We got Hutch back. We have Sam Wagman back. And today we are talking about the tight end apocalypse, folks. The market's crashed. It's 2008, but for tight ends. Looks like Dalton Kincaid brought us back. So keep in mind that we are recording this on Monday Night Football, and I'm not going to add in Monday night stats. So we're going to start at the top, just kind of talk about how we're navigating this in general, and talk about our panic meter. We're going to move pretty quick, folks, so when I pull your string, get all your info out because we're moving fast and quick. We're going to start with Brock Bowers. Hutch, with you, is he's the Dynasty tight end one at this point?
I mean, to be honest, all off season for me, he's been the Dynasty tight end one. I have once he was drafted to the Raiders, I was like, this guy's the tight end one in Dynasty. I want him, and with the way he's playing the first couple games, yeah, he's the Dynasty tight end one, and he might be the tight end one rest of season. Honestly, he's up there in that conversation right now. It's just he's
Jeff,
playing
what
at
about
elite
you?
level.
Yeah, he's my tight end one. I think talent, skill, he's got the whole package. People were off him because of the landing spot or because of Kyle Pitts, whatever other reason. I mean, this is the guy that we've been waiting for, and I don't know how much longer Devontae Adams is going to be a Raider. It's going to be a great situation for him.
Yeah, Lisan Al-Gaib, folks, if you are familiar with Dune. The prince that was promised, if you're a Game of Thrones fan. He's good. I think I had valid reasons to be concerned about the Raiders. They're a terrible team, but it's not like I thought that, he was like that low or anything like that, but he's officially tied in one. Sam, I'm assuming for you as well, no one's here is super crazy. He's everything we wanted Kyle Pitts to be. So we're going to move on to our next one, which is my number one boy, Sam LaPorta. I still think he's good. He's just dealt with some injuries there, but his numbers have been low. It's 3.3 targets per game, 2.7 receptions per game, 31.3 yards per game. The key thing that I like is he's running 27.7 routes a game.
Yeah.
Also, a huge caveat, he's been recovering from injuries, and he just got injured again. I don't know if this is going to be annoying or it's going to be one of those things, but I don't think that he sucks. Hutch, where's your panic meter on Sam LaPorta for the rest of the season? Between a scale of 1 to 10.
I'm probably at like a 4 or 5. I mean, recovering from the injuries might nag. It stinks. But then also another thing you got to add to this conversation is that through the first 2 weeks, Jahmyr Gibbs and Jameson Williams were out targeting Sam LaPorta. Like, Jameson Williams has taken a step forward. He's earned a really reasonable target share in this offense. Jahmyr Gibbs continues to be a great asset in the passing game for the Lions. And it seems like as a result, Sam LaPorta might struggle a little bit. He might be inconsistent with his target share. Last year, it was Amon-Ra, and it was him, and that was basically it in terms of their targets. But this year, it seems like Jahmyr Gibbs is taking a step up. It seems like J-Mo is taking a big step up, and I think Sam LaPorta might be a loser here as a result. But I don't. So tight end 1 overall, top 3 tight end, probably not for me. But tight end 4 to 6, he should be there, and that's going to be okay. But it's going to be a disappointment from where you draft him in redraft, and then in Dynasty from where you're valuing him, likely a slight disappointment.
He's still top 3 for me. I'd probably him and McBride are pretty interchangeable to me. Jeff, where are you at? Like, I doubt you're really panicked on here, but obviously Bowers is first. Is Sam LaPorta 2, 3, or 4 for you at this point?
He's 3 for me, and actually I might move Dalton Kincaid above him. We got a touchdown here tonight from Kincaid, and so that's some signs of life. But I think Hutch makes the great point there that the emergence of Jameson Williams potentially moves him out of a locked-in number 2 target in this offense role to, I mean, I would rather have Jameson Williams have the ball in his hands than Sam LaPorta personally, but that's just me. But and so that's kind of where there. And the other caveat too, they really like Brock Wright, and Dan Campbell talked a lot this offseason about Brock Wright as like that second tight end. They used last year a lot of 6th offensive linemen, and they got away from that. They didn't do that until early in week 3 here, and their 6 offensive linemen they used got hurt right away against the Cardinals. And so playing with a more traditional second tight end than an offensive lineman changes maybe the potential targets where you would be going when you want to play 12 personnel or heavy sets.
Yeah, and I think it's more where we'll see, and I've kind of said this, is that I just think it's going to be like his George Kittle. It's not going to be like you said where he's going to be guaranteed 14 points a game. He's going to have a game where he might be sitting or playing a decoy. And because they have all these targets now, he might have a week or two that are going to be duds. And then he's going to have a game with 3 touchdowns. And that's just something that you're going to have to live with.
Yep.
Sam, um, where are you as far as like ranking him? Do you have him behind McBride and Dalton Kincaid, or I mean, if you look at him statistically, what's the difference between him and Kyle Pitts at this point?
Yeah, there's not much difference between him and Pitts. I do have McBride and Kincaid ahead of him at this point. And you took the words right out of my mouth. I literally have on my notes he's becoming Kittled. There's just too many cooks in the kitchen at this point for him. This is, Jared Goff we're talking about. He's fine with spreading the ball around. He's not going to zero in any one guy outside of Amon-Ra St. Brown. And I don't know if we can depend on him on a week-to-week basis. And so far this season, it kind of seems that for a lot of tight ends, the only real ones that have any consistent week-to-week value so far, it seems, have been Brock Bowers and Trey McBride. And obviously McBride unfortunately went down with a concussion this week. We'll see, where he stands for the next couple of weeks. But I have LaPorta at tight end 5. I think a lot of these guys are kind of bunched up. I think 1 week can kind of dislodge a lot of things. A lot of people went into this week with Dalton Kincaid, tight end 5 or tight end 6, and they're probably going to be moving him up to tight end 2 or tight end 3, after seeing how much faster and quicker and just kind of more in sync with this offense that he looked tonight. So, I'm there with LaPorta. Things can change. Things are fluid. I'm glad it's a low ankle sprain for him, not a high ankle sprain, as some people, initially thought. So, we'll look to monitor that and see kind of how he recovers from there. But, right now, I definitely think you need to, be a little bit mindful of where LaPorta is in this offense and where he might stand in the pecking order.
Yeah. Next, we have Trey McBride. He's one that we're not panicked about, and we know who he is. He's clearly like the second target, or at least maybe 2B. Michael Wilson's still getting a lot of love there, but he's getting at least 7 targets a game, 4.7 receptions, 40 yards per game, and 24.7 routes per game. This does include a game where, like Sam said, he left for injury there. But Trey McBride is just a talented player. He's probably the best Colorado State player that's come out of there in the last ever, probably in a long time.
Yeah.
So he was literally that offense. So I don't think there's any real worry there. So we're not going to spend a whole lot of time on him.
No
We're going to
worries.
move
Yeah.
over to Dalton. Yeah, we're going to move over to Dalton Kincaid. Like when I made this sheet, he was at 3 targets a game, 2.5 receptions, 22 yards per game, 18 routes a game. 18 routes is what was like the huge problem there. The worst people on Twitter were victory lapping that Dalton Kincaid was bad. Then we have this week. Jeff, what's the stat line after this game that happened as of right now?
3 catches, 41 yards, and a touchdown. So he hit some
5
key
targets.
numbers here. So 5 targets, but he did hit some key numbers if you're that type of person. So you like to see that. I mean, it'd be not. I mean, it's not. I mean, I'm a Bills fan, so I'm fine with it. But the Bills have played a half of football each of the last 2 weeks offensively because they've had the game over at halftime. So you get a full game here of this production of this offense, and yeah, I think that he'll end up where you would hope for.
Yeah.
And you go ahead.
Sorry.
Hutch.
So Sam, you said that didn't the Bills pass 29 times in the first half? Wasn't that correct, Sam?
The Bills passed to Josh Allen 29 times in the first half tonight.
And then
they
ended with like 30 pass attempts in the game, right? Isn't that correct?
Correct. Yeah, they ran most of the third quarter, but the Jaguars also had a couple of sustained drives in the third quarter as well. The last one ended with them turning the ball over inside the 20-yard line of the Bills. So, but yeah, kind of fortuitous there. But I think the Bills are very okay with doing whatever the opposite team gives them. And as that pertains to Kincaid, I think we're going to see some weeks where he has, kind of spike weeks like we saw tonight. And we're going to see some weeks where you have Keon Coleman and Khalil Shakir and Curtis Samuel kind of doing, a lot of the work there. And I think that's good and bad. It shows that Kincaid doesn't have to be the hero. Obviously, for fantasy, we would like to see a little bit more of a concentrated look at him. But again, I think this still goes back to where we were on our earlier show this week, talking about how players need a little bit of time to develop. And I think Kincaid is there where, maybe this year he's learning some of the more nuanced things about the tight end position and kind of what his role should be instead of just an every down pass catcher in this offense. So I think, preaching patience for us is really good here. I think Kincaid is one of the best receiving options at tight end in this league. He's my tight end too. I absolutely love him. I think he's going to be set up as one of the focal points of this offense for years to come, with Josh Allen. So I'm not worried at all when it comes to a dynasty lens.
Yeah, no,
You hit the key point there, and I just think it's a massive galaxy brain that's going on because do we think that Dalton Kincaid's good? Yeah, I think he's good. And do we want players with Josh Allen? Yeah, I'd like players with Josh Allen. Do we know who the number one receiver is for the Bills?
No.
Not really. Yeah, I mean, it's sometimes it's not as hard as we want to make it.
Yeah, I mean, like the thing is, like how confusing the Bills' wide receiver one room is right now. He was the wide receiver one. Like Keon Coleman didn't touch the field in the first 2 drives, and then he scored a touchdown. Like pretty soon after that, like it was like it's so weird.
Someone was saying he was benched because he was late to the game. So I wonder what went on there.
Well,
But
I can see that happening. Yes.
I did not see that happening there. But the thing is, with Kincaid, we know like he's going to be a consistent option when the rest of the receiving room is like we have no idea who it is, and that's a great thing to see for our tight end.
Yeah, to me, it's Kincaid and Shakir, and then everyone
Shakir,
else
Shakir's
is
good.
yeah, is like whatever. And it's like Jeff said, this is what they did with Miami. They're like, okay, we're up by 21 points. Here you go, Cook. Here you go, like Davis, and we're just gonna run the ball out, and then everyone's gonna go home. Like until I don't think we've seen a negative game script yet.
No, the defense has played too
good.
good.
They were down by 10 early against the Cardinals, and then they kind of just flipped the switch. And in the second half of that game, they just completely shut them down. But they have looked every bit as good as a Bills fan could hope they would look.
Yeah, and that's one L I got to eat is like I should have known that Sean McDermott, like when they were cleaning house on defense, I was like really concerned, and that was more like Sean McDermott's like, okay, I could just use all these cheap guys and we'll still be fine. It wasn't so much rebuilding as like we're gonna get cheaper and then reload. And I think that next. Go ahead.
Some names and some egos outstripped production, I think, there towards the tail end.
Yeah. Tre'Davious White.
Yeah.
So the next one, another Jag favorite that could be an L or not. Not really. I don't know because he's a tight end. Kyle Pitts. 4 targets a game, 2.7 receptions per game, 35 yards per game, 24.7 routes a game. One thing that was really noticeable from last game is they quit trying to use Kyle Pitts like a receiver and just started using him like a tight end. And it's like, wow, people like, he looks really slow. I'm like, yeah, he might be slow for an X, but if you go and like use him in line, he might be all right. It's crazy what happens there. With that being said, it's still not so much translating to the box score, but I am willing to give this entire team a benefit of the doubt. Is that like literally Kirk had, you could see the rust on him. I'm like for real, like he was like the Tin Man without oil that first game. Now we saw and I looked at it. He went from like he's still at like an 18% play action rate because he had 0 that first game. I think he had 38% play action the second game, and I'm not sure on the third game. We're just seeing a more nuanced offense. It's a little bit better. I know a lot of people aren't as excited as Zach Robinson as we were before actual downs were played. But Hutch, we'll start with you. Are you concerned about Kyle Pitts? I still have him ranked in my top 5 because who else am I going to put there?
Yeah. So. It's fair enough. Yeah. I mean, I like your point with the new nuanced offense. Play action passes are becoming more of a thing because Kirk Cousins, the rust is slowly melting off of him. And you can see it in his mobility. You really can. We saw it on Thursday Night Football with Aaron Rodgers, coming off that Achilles tear in week 3. We saw the mobility. We saw the ability to roll outside the pocket, get a few rushing yards. And it was great to see for him. He had a great game. And I think Kirk Cousins started to unlock that last week. I think we saw a really good, or this past week, sorry, I think we saw a lot more mobility. I saw a few plays where he was moving outside the pocket and he looked nice rolling out. The play action where he's starting under center, rolling back, and it's really, really nice to see that mobility, especially, considering the fact that his Achilles was on his plant foot, because the first couple games he could barely step into throws. Like, it was so bad, but it's looking a lot better now. And as Kirk Cousins continues to get more mobile, this offense becomes more nuanced. As a result, this offense should score more points, move down the field, and Pitts and London should be better. The only thing I will say is that Darnell Mooney's looked pretty solid, and he's been pretty involved in the offense, and it's looking like he's actually competing for the number 2 wide receiver spot, and that could hurt Kyle Pitts a little bit in fantasy. That's the only thing I'll say, but I'm not too worried about Kyle Pitts. Yeah, I will still continue to roll him out as a tight end 1 in my fantasy lineup, and I think your ranking of as Dynasty tight end 5 is very fair.
What about you, Jeff? Where do you have him at?
He's my tight end 5. And I think that, not to bring up some bad memories for the Eagles fans here, but I think you look about halfway through that fourth quarter against the Falcons, against the Eagles, Kirk Cousins basically, I don't know if the trust came back into his plant leg or he just said, maybe it will hurt a little bit, but this is what I need to do. But like, this is football. And I feel like from that moment on, it just kind of clicked and you're going to get back into it. I think it's important to note, we know the Chiefs defense is very, very good.
It's good.
And
yeah.
He looked much better in that game. And so I think it's just going to continue to build. The confidence is going to continue to build. Comfort in the scheme is going to continue to build. And I mean, if outside of a pass interference that doesn't get called because they're the Chiefs, I mean, Kyle Pitts was right there and having a pretty big week.
Yep. Yeah, that was a touchdown that was stolen away.
Yeah, it's like it's gonna happen. I know it sucks to say that, guys. So it's only 3 weeks, and right now you're panicked and you don't want to start 0-3 and 0-4, and we don't want to start naming statistics of how hard it is to win after you start with that bad of But like, it's probably not Kyle Pitts' fault that your team is bad right now. It's because all tight ends are bad. So right now, so it's just like weird and fluky. So the answer is like, who should you have drafted at tight end? Brock Bowers, and that's it.
Yes.
Yes, sir. That's it. Yep.
If you didn't drop Brock Bowers, you were wrong. That's
it. Yep.
We'll be quick with this next one because he is injured. We have nothing to think about. So it's more of like, if we like Sam Darnold, if we like the direction of the Vikings, is TJ Hockenson still someone that we're excited about? I'm always shocked that TJ Hockenson is like 27 years old, because I feel like I've watched him forever. Like, I think he came out of high school straight to the NFL. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So Sam, do you think that Hawk is a good grab right now because of the state of the Vikings, that he could come in and be a league winner?
I'm worried because he had a complication. It wasn't just a through and through ACL, it was MCL too. So, with that, we have to worry about whether that's going to play a role for him, in 2024. I have a feeling that it will. Less clean ACL reconstructions tend to have a little bit less or more of a degree of difficulty in returning to play at the same level as before, at least for the first initial year. I think 2024 is basically a lost year for Hockenson. I don't think we see him till at least week 10, and then the ramp up has to come. Maybe he's okay by the fantasy playoffs, probably still kind of getting it going through the end of the regular season. I think, the Vikings are happy if he's, healthy for a possible stretch run in the playoffs. 2025 will be the real interesting thing for him. He's still my tight end 6. Like, I still want to have TJ Hockenson. I just think you have to be okay with the fact that he's going to probably not do much this season. And with the way the Vikings are rolling right now, and the fact that Jalen Naylor has been so good in a role that Kevin O'Connell has basically said we're using him as TJ Hockenson right now, I think they're kind of okay with how things are going. Sure, Hockenson offers you a level of explosivity that this offense doesn't have, with Jordan Addison injured and obviously Justin Jefferson being Justin Jefferson. But, are they going to rush Hockenson back if they don't need to? I don't think they will. So, I think it all depends on how willing you are to let things kind of play out with what was a very serious injury for Hockenson. But, I would acquire him, but know that, you're basically suiting up for 2025, not 24.
I would agree there. And one thing you should mention, like you said with the ACL, MCL tear, like it's this very serious knee injury. And one thing we love about Hockenson is his ability as an athlete. We love tight ends for fantasy that are athletic, and Hockenson has those capabilities. Someone that can get yards after the catch, someone that can make plays downfield. And if he's still recovering from a knee injury, he's not going to have that explosiveness that we want for fantasy purposes. So it's like Sam said, it's going to hinder him as a result.
Yep. Next will be pretty quick. Actually, Jeff, I forgot about you. Hockenson, good?
Yeah, he's a good player.
Cool.
He's a very good player.
We'll move really quick to George Kittle right now. And like I said, we're going to move fast because he had an injury, so we only have the 2 games. But like with the 49ers, they're the 49ers. George Kittle's George Kittle. He's exactly the player that we drafted. Like we said about Sam LaPorta, like you're going to put him in your lineup every week. You're going to be so pissed off when it's not George Kittle week. You're going to be so pissed off when you go against George Kittle when it is George Kittle week. He's very, very good player. Moving quick to the next one. We're going to do this as a combo.
Yes.
And we're going to talk about Isaiah Likely and Mark Andrews. It's doo-doo, guys. It's really bad. I don't know what to call this. I don't know what to call this offense. I really like Todd Monken. It's working. They're scoring points, so it's hard to say, well, they need a clean house. But Isaiah Likely's getting 5.3 targets a game, 4 receptions, 47 yards per game, 16.7 routes per game. And then Mark Andrews, the opposite worst side of the coin, 2.7 targets a game, 2 receptions a game, 21.7 yards per game, 18.7 routes per game. But here's the kicker, guys. Last game, we've all seen the tweets. We've all seen the allegations. 4 routes the last game. How bad is it, Jeff? How worried are you?
I'm like a 13 out of 10 worried. I think coming out of it, especially John Harbaugh gave that press conference talking about, we're just going to use different personnel, and it inspired me to kind of say like I'm a little bit nervous about coaches that decide their best scheme does not involve their best personnel when it comes to football. But that's just me. But yeah, I'm nervous, and I think a lot of it they don't have to, and I think you're kind of running into that with these guys, with Travis Kelce. These teams don't have to use these players, and they're not.
Yeah, it's weird. Go ahead, Hutch.
Yeah, I think the thing that's crazy about this is last year, right? The last couple of years, Mark Andrews has been the number 1 receiving option on the team. He hasn't been the number 1 tight end. He's been the number 1 receiving option. And now here's the thing. Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely primarily are fighting for the number 1 tight end spot, but they're not fighting for the number 1 receiving spot. Zay Flowers has taken that over. I mean, the first 2 weeks, Zay Flowers was top 5 in targets. So we talk about the Lamar passing pie not always being super strong, and considering the fact that they have Derrick Henry in the backfield, if they're leading, they're going to run the ball out like we saw against Dallas. Lamar passed the ball 15 times. So if Zay Flowers is already the number 1 wide receiver, if he's dominating that role, and Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely are fighting to be the number 1 tight end in this Lamar passing pie offense, where there's probably going to be a lot of games where they're running out the clock because they're a good team, there's just not much to fight for here. There's not much to want here. It's just, even if the targets were consolidated to Andrews in the tight end room, it still would be like, it'd be good, but still wouldn't be the Andrews we wanted. So that it's really concerning. I'm with Jeff where I am incredibly concerned. I mean, Charlie Kolar outsnapped Mark Andrews last week, guys.
Yeah.
Charlie Kolar.
It's even, and you're right. It's Zay Flowers and everyone else. And, I got a buddy who's a Ravens fan, and he's like, I go to every home game, and he's like, it's not just the data. And I've only pretty much looked at the defensive side of the ball for the Ravens, which showed up all of a sudden. But I mean, we haven't talked about Rashad Bateman. Like everything peripheral says Rashad Bateman is a good player. And I think that was the first year I started, actually rookie scouting and whatnot. Rashad Bateman, I thought he was a good player then, and I've had a pretty good hit rate up until that point. I told everyone that Zay Flowers is the wide receiver 2, arguably the wide receiver 1. I'm right. Haha, nana boo boo. But anyway, it's pretty depressing thinking about Mark Andrews and how we've drafted him, because I know like Dave Kluge and a lot of people in redraft, justifiably so, have had Mark Andrews as like the tight end one. So it's really confusing at this point what's happening now. So I don't know what to tell you folks. Panic, but I can't comfortably tell you to buy, and I can't comfortably tell you to sell. I will say Isaiah Likely might still be a buy, and he I don't know. They're back to back right now as far as rankings in a lot of places. So one might be too high, one might be too low, and I'm sorry, but that generally means that everything's bad if we can't come up to anything. All right, two more
Yep.
tight
I do want to
ends.
say I do want to say one thing. The only reason I have Likely at tight end 7 and Andrews not even in my top 12 is because there's a Alton Andrews contract for the Ravens after the season, and I
Yeah.
think the Ravens
That's
might look
huge.
to exercise it. So
It's huge.
I
It's
think
huge.
that could change things somewhat if there's not a clogger. If Andrews, who was basically a roster clogger at this point, if he's not on the Ravens, that could free up things for Isaiah Likely and what was supposed to be a very, very elite downfield passing offense from Todd Monken. I haven't heard anybody talk about that in about a year.
Yeah, no, it's not there.
That just vanished into thin air. Matthew McConaughey from Wolf of Wall
Name
Street.
that movie. Okay.
Yeah, Wolf of Wall Street. Fugazi. Woo,
Oh,
just
yeah.
floated off into the distance. But from that aspect, Isaiah Likely is a buy. So that's why I brought that up, Jagger.
Nice. Next, we're going to talk about Jake Ferguson, a tight end that's actually running routes, guys. It's pretty nice when they go and do that because it scores us points when they do. Jake Ferguson, 8 targets a game, 4.5 receptions a game, 55 yards per game, 29.5 routes per game. Hot dog. One might say he is the second target for the Cowboys at this point, barring injury. Hutch, do you think that rest of season is Jake Ferguson a top 5 tight end rest of season?
Oh man, I think it's totally there. I really, really do. When you look at Dallas's offense and the way that they're built, it's CeeDee Lamb and then it's Jake Ferguson, and they don't have a run game. It just hasn't worked yet all season, and we knew it wasn't going to work because it's Ezekiel Elliott, Rico Dalton, Deuce Vaughn. We know it's not going to work because it sucks. None of those players are good. So we look at this offense. They're going to lean on the pass. CeeDee Lamb's the guy. And then outside of CeeDee Lamb, it's a bunch of receivers that can do things here and there, but Jake Ferguson is the number 2 option. And if you have that tight end in what is a productive offense in Dallas, you're going to get some fantasy points. So I think Jacob Ferguson, with all the mess at tight end right now, Jacob Ferguson absolutely should be in the conversation of top 5 rest of season as long as he's healthy, which seemed to be healthy this week based on what I saw.
Jeff, would you trade Mark Andrews for Jake Ferguson at this point?
Yes.
Goodness.
Yes, easily.
Oh, that hurt to ask.
It gives me the shudders. I don't know.
Yeah. I think I would cry,
Get
and
it.
I
I
think
don't
I
know if I
would
can do
cry
that, though.
as I click accept.
Yeah.
I would shed a tear.
I'm gonna have to check and see where I have Jake Ferguson and send some offers for Mike Andrews, maybe.
He's kind of boring in that like Dalton Schultz way that like we saw a couple of years ago, like where he's not gonna flash, like he doesn't do anything athletically that's super cool. Like, he doesn't have the route running ability of George Kittle. He can't get downfield like that, but he gets open. And the defense is just like, yeah, throw it to Jake Ferguson. We'll allow you to do that. And Dak Prescott's like, sure, I'll take the free, underneath routes and across the middle to Jake Ferguson, and he'll get me, 12 yards here and 8 yards there and 6 yards there. And all of a sudden, Jake Ferguson has, 6 catches for 50 yards. And in today's tight end landscape, that's really good.
Yeah.
So,
and you throw a red zone target there
for it.
Touchdown. You throw a red zone
I'm
target
kind of there
touchdown.
for. I'm kind of there for it to the point like where I am going to consider, a very, very gross trade like that for Mark Andrews, because it's starting to get to the point of, at what point do these guys that are boring, that don't really move the needle entertainment wise, but move the needle because they're actually putting up yards and not just pretend yards, what point does that start to matter more?
And it's like our beloved friend, everyone loves him here, Andrew Cooper. He says, like, basically, if you want a top 5 tight end, you need to be a top 2 offense
Top two.
on your
Yep.
team.
Yep. There
That's
it
like
is.
at the
And
end of the
Jake
day,
Ferguson cooks that.
yeah.
Yeah.
This is one of those things where like the fantasy casual does not care. He's like, Jake Ferguson scores me points. I don't care about anything else. And then us, we're like, our brains are breaking trying to conceptualize trading Mark Andrews for Jake Ferguson.
Yeah. Yeah.
Someone dropped Mark Andrews in a league that I'm in and picked up Jake Ferguson off the wire last week, and I just was
Oh,
laughing.
man.
I was dying laughing because I know that person is exactly the type of person that Jagger just described, is a casual that's like, yes, Jake Ferguson scores points. I like that. Mark Andrews has not scored any points. I do not like this.
I mean,
Life is too short. I am clicking the button.
Rest of the season is
And the-
pretty fair to say you'd rather have Jake Ferguson than Mark Andrews at this point. It's fair. Like, I don't know if I want
And
to
that-
drop Mark Andrews. I try to drop someone else, but I don't
and
know
we'll
that move.
finish with someone that we're kind of having the same coping. It's Travis Kelce, guys. Did Taylor Swift suck the life out of him? And this is again me.
Phrasing.
One play stuck out for me. I saw Travis Kelce look like Travis Kelce. It was a dig route. He got open really fast, and it was normal where like a 14-yard dig, 14 yards down the field, you cut in, and like any other time, that ball would have been out before Travis Kelce turned his head. And it's like, is it just Rashee Rice now? Is the first read all the time at this point, Jeff?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
Rashee Rice's offense. And but I mean,
We're all just living in it.
Travis Kelce is a touchdown dependent player, but he's playing with Patrick Mahomes, so he could score a touchdown every single week. But yeah, it's definitely Rashee Rice's offense. But I do, for perspective a little bit. So last year through week 3, Hunter Henry was the tight end 3. Remember where Hunter Henry finished?
Yes.
Donald Parham was the tight end 6. Darren Waller was the tight end 8. Tyler Higbee was the tight end 9. Luke Musgrave tight end 10. And Hayden Hurst tight end 14. I mean, I don't know. We're still very, very early. And these are players that have proven themselves to be high-end producers. And I mean, through 3 weeks, we start to feel like we have a little bit more of a clear picture. But at the same time, these players have produced before, and they're talented, and they can produce again.
Yeah.
The one thing I will question, though, I'm genuinely asking, have we seen a threat? Because like in 2023, you look at where Travis Kelce's targets were, 76.9% of his targets were within 0 to 20 yards of the line of scrimmage. Like, that's where, like you were talking about the 10, 15-yard dig route over the middle, finding that hole in the zone and getting open, and Mahomes dumps it over the middle to him. Like that was the play last year that Travis Kelce dominated on. Rashee Rice has taken that job. Rashee Rice has 100% taken that job.
Yeah.
He wins on those slant routes. He wins on those little out-in routes, either or. And he finds the holes in the zone. And the problem is he is doing it better than Travis Kelce. Right now, he leads the NFL. I mean, he leads wide receivers in broken and missed tackles forced per reception. And he also is almost leading the NFL in yak as well. Like, the dude is just dominating. Like, have we seen a threat like this to Travis Kelce's receiving option? Because we had Tyreek Hill for a while, but Tyreek Hill is more of a vertical threat. He's not someone that does the things Rashee Rice does. I don't think we've seen a threat like this for Travis Kelce. And especially at this point in his career where Travis Kelce, 34, 35 years old, like, this might just be a complete takeover.
I don't know. I'm eating regretty spaghetti because, like I told everyone here last week, I'm persnickety about certain things, and I just needed to see it. I needed him to win outside against man coverage, caught a deep ball, did it,
He did,
and it's like some things I'm just trying to like get out of my head that it's hard for me to get my football brain out of. Is that Andy Reid is just going to put him in best position, and I just need to get over it. Because what they're doing is they're running a mesh concept, but like spread out, where Xavier Worthy is stacked on the line, and then they put Rashee Rice right behind him. And as a defender, even if you have him bunched up, what are you going to do? You have Xavier Worthy, the fastest man in the NFL, then you have Rashee Rice underneath, and then they're just playing b-ball at that point, like a pick and roll the entire time. And then like it's almost like Travis Kelce is like kind of the third option. He's in this Jason Witten era where he's just like this dump off and catch thing. So I will say the 27.3 routes per game, when we're looking at all the stuff that we think is bad as far as people not running routes, talking about Mark Andrews, Yeah, Travis Kelce is out there running routes, and like I said, I'm looking at the tape. He's open. Rashee Rice is just the first read now, and I just think we need to be able to accept that. That's the tight end market, folks. It's not as bad as things seem right now. I think things are going to trend upward. As always, I'm Jagger. That is Jeff, Hutch, and Sam will be back for our trade episode, and we'll see you guys on the next.